Alrighty, so my name is Annie Uzar, and I'm the Associate Director of Partner Programs here at Parker Dewey. I'm so excited to talk with you all about partner programs today, and of course, do an overview of what micro internships are for those of you who could use a refresher on that as well. So today we're going to talk about Parker Dewey, as well as what is a Parker Dewey program, and then how to launch a program, what might be right for your student population, for your goals, for your institution. And of course, we can follow up with any additional questions along the way. So feel free to use the chat if you have questions. I'm hoping we'll answer everything throughout the presentation, but just in case, feel free to ask any questions. So what are micro internships? Micro internships are short-term opportunities. Let me go ahead and throw that over here. That help to, goodness, my screen got all kinds of wackadoodle. Sorry, guys. They have short-term opportunities, right? They're 10 to 40 hours worth of work by the micro intern, and this is typically completed within a few days or weeks. And you can set the timeline for when you want the project to end and begin. These are not high-risk projects. Students aren't working on sensitive information or systems, and they're really flexible. So it means that companies can post projects on demand year-round whenever there's a need, whether that be a recruiting need or a short-term project need. And then, of course, it provides flexibility for location, right? Most micro internships can be completed remotely. So organizations who maybe are trying to recruit from areas that are not local to them, they're able to work with students from all across the country. Another key element is that micro internships must be paid. So it's a fixed cost fee that typically ranges from $200 to $600 per project, and that is set by the company as well. And these are all professional projects that would typically be assigned to an intern or a new hire. And one aspect that, again, we try to make things really simple throughout the process is that the payment is done by Parker Dewey. So we make it easy for companies to work with the student on demand without having to worry about any administrative burdens or red tape. For those of the organizations that recruit from your campus that they might not have a traditional internship program or large HR teams, it can be a great way to get that on-demand support when they don't have the time to necessarily be doing all of the onboarding aspects of a traditional hire. And then if they do want to hire their micro intern long term, we love it. We love to see it. We love to say that we'll buy that hiring manager flowers, right? We are not a temp to perm agency. We want to make sure that if there is a great match and an organization wants to hire the student that they've worked with after the micro internship concludes, we say more power to them. We love to see it. It's awesome. For larger companies, a Parker Dewey micro internship can be seen as a pre-internship pathway into existing early career programming. So it's a great way to be able to audition that talent for those longer term roles, see what they can do, kind of try things out a bit before really going into a deeper, longer term opportunity with one another. And once again, these are independent contractors. The work product is the companies, and the students have to commit to NDAs, so they're not able to necessarily go off and say, yep, I worked with this company doing all of these things. They can share out kind of generally what they've done, but a lot of companies like that about us because they can remain anonymous in the world and still be kind of having that leg up on their competitors that they get to work with micro interns. So we've got a lot of win-win-wins around here. So for students, 95% of the students that use micro internships say the real world short-term work experience is how they do want to be recruited. 98% of students completing the micro internships stay in their first job after college for more than a year, which is a tremendous outcome. For companies, all of the organizations, thousands who have worked with students on micro internships at this point, 10 years in, 97% said the micro intern met or exceeded their expectations for the role. And then, of course, all of our colleges, universities, and other partners across the nation here. We've got 800 plus partners here at Parker Dewey, and we love getting to support students from everywhere. 80% of microinterns selected come from historically underrepresented backgrounds. So at Parker Dewey, we're always interested in that win-win-win. But having worked in higher education, specifically career services in the past, we all know that there are as many stakeholders that you have to keep in mind, right, when you are thinking about a program and thinking about new initiatives. So there's a lot of factors that are out of our control a lot of the time, right? Limited budgets, needing to serve all students, right? So making sure that whatever you're doing isn't isolating to one population over another. And then, of course, the ever limited staffing options that are available to us all. So we're going to talk about how other schools have implemented everything, different programs along the way. And I know that there's so much here that we want to talk about, of course, how everything is getting impacted through micro internships. But I want to give you some real world examples as well of partners who have implemented programs and how they have used them to combat some of those factors that I just talked about that kind of sometimes limit what we're able to do as individuals, as well as achieving some of the goals that they've had. We all love data. We all love getting NACE feedback, and we definitely survey the students after they're done with micro internships with this in mind. So as you can see from this snapshot, the majority of students who are completing micro internships are seeing a difference in improvement. And again, this is self-reflective based on these competencies and how they're feeling after they've completed a micro internship. We've got a lot of partnership options. A lot of you in here today are already partners. This is just a quick overview of all of our different partnership options, from the basic no cost option, from being a Parker Dewey Plus partner, having on-demand access to your data. I'll look at that in a minute with you all, as well as looking at what programs can look like. So best practice is that programs start at $10,000 to support a recommended amount of students, as well as everything that goes into launching a program that we'll talk about a bit later too. But you can kind of see the differences here in all of the different levels of partnership that we have. So with the Parker Dewey Plus partnership, and this also is with programs, you have access to what we call Parker Dewey Plus. This is on-demand reporting for your student and employer engagement. This is something that we launched. Goodness, it's been a year now. Wow. We are still continuing to make developments, changes, and improvements to the system. So it's been a really cool ride to be a part of. And a lot of those are based off of feedback that we get from our campus partners saying, hey, can you do this? Or we'd love to know this, or leadership really wants to know this. And we're like, you know what, that makes sense. We hear that from a lot of folks. Let's see if that's possible technically and try to get it in there. You're able to look at the student accounts, right? So oftentimes we would like to know, what did you put on that application, friend? Like, why do you think you didn't get the role? And with Parker Dewey Plus, you're able to sit down with students in your office, meetings directed towards advisors, and go ahead and review what the students have put for these applications and go forward with coaching them. You're able to download reports on the students' feedback. Those NACE competencies is just one element of that, as well as the employer's feedback, right? So employers are encouraged to give feedback at the end of a micro internship to really provide that support for students, continuing their professional development. And then, of course, with Parker Dewey Plus, a really fun aspect is that it includes covering the cost for your own student ambassador for your campus, right, or your initiatives. So part of that $2,000 yearly subscription fee actually covers the cost of paying the student for a I think it's 18 or 20-hour micro internship where they're able to serve as an ambassador, and we've got a great checklist that really helps things out and makes it easy for whomever on your team is supervising them. But they're able to focus on employer engagement, on student engagement, on really spreading the word and being that voice both for you all as well as their peers and getting to report back what they're seeing and hearing on campus about the impact of micro internships as well. So with a program partnership, this is where different partners fund micro internships exclusively for their students to work with organizations of their choice. So like I said before, programs typically are about $10,000 or more, and that includes that Parker Dewey Plus access I was talking about. That's $2,000 by itself. It's kind of thrown in there. So again, this includes payment for your students for completing these micro internships. And again, they're isolated for just your students. None of those other 800 plus partners, students are able to then access those projects that you're bringing in and paying for. This also covers the cost of program management by Parker Dewey, by our team, a lot of my day-to-day and what I'm doing to help support student payments, the administration of the program, any marketing materials that you might need to promote the program, of course, all of the data that goes in a program like this as well. So what is a partner program? So paid micro internships are posted exclusively for your students to work on behalf of organizations of your choice. So you can decide what students are eligible for these things, as well as what organizations are eligible to participate. I've got about roughly 1 million case studies throughout this presentation, so we can kind of go through what some other campuses have done and organizations as well to sponsor these projects and what some of their criteria has been along with their goals. And again, this all comes down to the funding for the program. Maybe it is dependent upon some grant criteria that you have, or again, internal goals. Now, why do schools and organizations do this? Why do they have a funded program? Why can't students just log on and do projects and live their best lives, right? So again, this is for those targeted goals. So this helps you to support institutional initiatives while providing these paid resumeable experiences for the students. You're able to stretch experiential learning budgets to support even more students. I know at a previous campus I was at, we had a small professional development budget for students if they maybe landed an unpaid internship or wanted some sponsorship to attend a conference, but it was not as efficiently used as it could have been. And it also wasn't as widely known about amongst the students. So it wasn't often used to the fullest capabilities. This also provides students opportunities for the students to receive these paid experiences that they might not have otherwise had access to these kinds of opportunities, right? We know that students are being pulled in many different directions these days as well, whether they're location bound or have other jobs they can't drop to do a whole semester long unpaid internship, right? The micro internships help to fill that gap by providing them with these professional opportunities related to their careers of choice or its skills and interest areas, while not diminishing what they're also doing in their day-to-day lives. So how long have we been doing programs? So since early 2021, two of our earliest program partners are through our Kansas Micro Internship Program, the Kansas Board of Regents and the Strata Foundation, as well as Fourth Ward College. We have dozens of other higher education institutions, as well as training providers who host partner programs. We also have nonprofit organizations, a lot of them who have approached us for support. Frederick A. DeLuca Foundation is one we'll dive deep into later. Sometimes there's organizations that support companies, right? So an example that comes to mind is, of course, our Indiana Economic Development Corporation that's supporting the entire state of Indiana, students that are there, as well as corporations. They might have their own hiring initiatives and they are creating their own funded programs to support their organization, working with students that are on their radar. And of course, we've got the philanthropic and social impact goals and organizations through things like our Amazon Career Choice program, as well as IBM Skills Build. This is just the smallest list I could fit on a slide. So there are so many more programs out there that, again, we'll dive into a few. So one of our earliest programs, as I mentioned, is the Kansas Micro Internship Program. This program funds micro internships for Kansas-based employers who select students that are attending Kansas-based colleges or universities. The funding source is a local nonprofit, the DeBruce Foundation, Kansas Department of Commerce, Kansas Board of Regents, and the Strata Foundation. Um, so the answer of like, who funds all of these things? It depends, right? In this case, this one program that supports the entire state, there's actually quite a few players as far as funding is concerned. Career services teams have been very involved in promoting the program to students as well as their local employers. And this launched in February 2021, and it's still going. So it's been a really cool one to get to be a part of. And again, a big goal that they had here was to address the brain drain in the state, right? They wanted to keep Kansas students who are getting educated there to remain in the state. So connecting them with local employers, helping to build that affinity, supporting the economy along the way. Win-win-win, right? And then we have our Swarthmore program, dubbed SWATworks. I love when people come through with a fun program name. And this program is actually funded by the Swarthmore College Career Services team. So they've got funding set aside, and a big goal that they have is to support alumni engagement, right? So when we talk about criteria for who can do these things, whether it be the student criteria or the employer criteria, one of the criteria is that it's alumni, right? Random company XYZ is not coming through and getting funded projects for this program. It's alumni as well as some select organizations that are key friends of Swarthmore, I like to say. This is a great way for alumni affairs to partner with a career services team and to really build those relationships on campus and continue to support one another. And again, they launched their program on their own in April 2020 and then became powered by Parker Dewey a year later. So March 2021 has been as long as that we've been helping to manage the program. Right now, they are launching the winter break program. So this time next year, we'll have more data on this year's winter break program, but you can of course see what was supported in the last year. So we have some great champions through each of our programs who are so lovely and have agreed to give us a few quotes for why they enjoy working with us or why they have chosen to work with us on a program specifically. Program. We encourage you to think about a few key aspects, right? So who is involved, right? What students are you trying to support through a funded program? What organizations would you want students to work with? And what institutional stakeholders would you engage to initiate this program? Like I just mentioned with Swarthmore, is it that we want to talk with alumni engagement? Do we want to partner with advancement? Any specific colleges on campus? And again, what organizations do we want to work with? Are they local organizations? Do we want to specifically focus on nonprofits or governmental agencies? And then students, are we focused on a certain class year, undergrads only, graduate students only, recent grads, all of the above? And then when, right? So you know your campus best. We're here to provide guidance and support on best practices based on what we've seen, but we'd really like to hear, when do you want this to happen, right? When is your desired timeline for a funded program to run? And then of course our whys. So what KPIs are you most interested in to determine the program's success or impact? Why is it that you're wanting to do this? Is it just, hey, we've got budget to use, let's do some good with it? Is it that we are really wanting to see a certain outcome for our students, and that's what we're going to measure our success on? And then how, right? So what funding sources might be available to support this program? Some existing funding sources, of course, are departmental budgets, donations, partnerships through chambers of commerce, and of course, grants. So thinking next about who's going to be involved, right? So we all know that there are a million stakeholders that we, of course, want to support throughout many endeavors that we partake in. But we really want to think about, again, are there specific students that we want to support? Is it, again, a specific academic program or some of those niche populations, right? We're going to go through a program in a bit that specifically focuses on student athletes. And then, of course, what organizations do you want to work with and that you want your students to be connecting with? right? So whatever criteria that you determine for who these organizations are eligible to use this funding, that's what we're here to help support and enforce, right? So making sure that only those approved organizations have access to this funding and your students through it. Some things to consider, of course, are supporting the students completing first year experience programs. That's a really cool one, as well as, again, student athletes. Really interesting to approach those athletic teams in their off seasons. And so the students are able to, again, work with the time they have. We mentioned how students have a lot of commitments, and that's just one of them. And so being able to design a specific program around those students' needs is incredibly helpful for them and everybody involved, right? Speaking of that, so our first athletics kind of focused program that I'll be bringing up today is University of Michigan football program. It's our Empower program, specifically supporting football players. Um, the initial cohort was launched in summer 2024, and I'm so excited to share that this past summer it grew a bit and supported even more players. And this was really, again, kind of run through their alumni association, right? So alumni gathered and said, hey, how can we support these current students that are players on the team? They've got a lot going on, and let's make sure that they're getting that support on the field and off the field, right? And surprisingly, this had nothing to do with their career services team, right? So this was run directly through the Michigan Football Empower program and didn't necessarily involve a lot of other academic or partners on campus. And again, thinking about who are all those people and colleagues that might need to be involved in a program, the answer is always it depends. Who is it that you want to be involving or need to involve for whatever reasons you may have? These are some examples of programs who have specifically involved faculty in their programs, small business community, specifically only nonprofits or government agencies, of course, alumni and friends of the college and university, and corporate partners, right? Can't forget about those. Thinking about timing. Timing can be everything. A lot of people ask us, well, when should we do this? Well, there's a couple options, right? So there's the ongoing option of saying, hey, this is going to go on until funding runs out. We've got quite a few of those that is just, hey, we're just going to have this lump sum of funds and maybe add to it when needed. But really just going to be there until the funding is exhausted. There are a few advantages to this kind of program. One being that it's accessible to the students and organizations year round, so they can really participate when it aligns with their needs. It's easier to manage if the students and companies have an unexpected delay, right? I had a notification earlier today from a company that said, oh, we're not going to finish by the deadline. And I was like, ooh, that's going to be a problem. Let's talk about it because this deadline was set because of criteria with the funding entity. So we need to have a conversation, and that's what I'm here to help navigate too. And of course, additional funding can be added at any time, whether that be, hey, we're running low, or hey, we happen to get this additional funding. Whatever it might be, we're happy to accommodate. And then there's the second option. And I'd like to say that both of these are pretty popular. So it really depends on your needs, whether you want to go with ongoing or something that goes more on school breaks. So there's many names for J term, winter break, spring term things, spring break, summer break. And there's a few advantages to this model as well, right? So in that one, it's easier to balance the supply and demand of projects and the marketing of the program. University of Delaware is one example that it had been ongoing and they decided they wanted to change to more of a school break model in this last year. And I'd like to say it's been wildly successful, right? The funding's utilized. Um, they're getting to consistently engage these organizations, as well as, again, getting to know, hey, let's do this chunk, learn from, everything that we've done this round, maybe implement some new changes. It's been really cool. And of course, unused funds, if they happen, can roll over to the next iteration of the program. You can say, hey, we want summer and to summer, or we want summer and winter breaks, whatever it might be that meets your needs best. That's what we're here to support. And then what's kind of interesting too is that when there's a time-based program like this, And companies are here, maybe hear about it and they're excited, but then they're like, hey, that time doesn't work for us, but we still want to work with your students. They'll self-fund in the in-between times. It's a great opportunity for them to hear about everything and then continue to really bring the longevity to the impact that you've started with a funded program. We can talk about the Trinity Community Alliance program. This is an interesting one because it was developed specifically through the business department at Trinity Christian College in Chicago. Their focus was supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. These groups of entrepreneurs are typically individuals from underrepresented communities to then connect with the students for the real world opportunities. So again, the funding source for this one is an academic department, but the program's not just limited to the business students. It's open to any of the students on campus. So I think that was a really generous move on behalf of Sandeep Dr. Bira, who began the program and has been quite impactful for all of the students involved. And again, these local small businesses and entrepreneurs who participate, they're getting this support that, again, a lot of individuals in their position wouldn't necessarily have access to. So this launched in fall 2022, and it's continued to expand and is currently going on right now. I touched a little bit on our University of Delaware program. Like I said, I love fun names, so their UD Blueheads Work is the name of their funded program. And the funding source for this program is from Career Services. So this is part of their budget that they utilize to support the students. Career Services promotes the opportunity to their students as well as the eligible organizations. This is a fun one where we work very closely to see which specific organizations are approved for the funding. Sometimes there's general criteria of, hey, we just want any nonprofit. As long as they're a nonprofit, we're cool. And sometimes it's specific folks who are actively engaging with the career services team, right? Maybe they're folks who have said that they wanted to table on campus, or again, have recruiting intentions with your school, or those longer standing relationships that you would like to continue to develop. And then, of course, I mentioned before how they kind of switched to having a break model. So they have organizations and students participate in this program during the summer terms and winter term as well. Certain things to think about again, those goals, those KPIs. So some common micro-internship program goals include providing professional development to specific students, particularly thinking about those first-year students or second-year students to really get them ready for some of those larger opportunities that they'll dive into in their junior and senior years, help build their confidence, help them with career exploration. The list goes on and on with that. Of course, supporting small businesses. So as a goal to support the local economy and community, engaging alumni, as well as introducing students to those career opportunities they might not have otherwise been aware of, right? So I mentioned that career exploration, supporting students from underrepresented backgrounds who might not have otherwise have heard about certain opportunities or had the time to dedicate to internships and career exploration opportunities, experiential learning, and of course, a win-win-win is broadening the school's employer network, right? So getting to engage organizations that you might not have otherwise connected with to recruit your students. I had a program launching recently and they said, well, what KPIs would you suggest? And I said, well, there's a lot of different things. It really matters what's important to you, your goals, your institution, your department, your DSO, everybody. So common ones are how many students or organizations are participating, how much money are students earning, of course, the employer satisfaction with the student performance. As I mentioned, we surveyed the employers at the end of an opportunity. So getting to see, what are the employers saying can be a big factor that they look at, as well as the student satisfaction with the program. Have they increased in their confidence and professional development? And then one of our favorites is when students move forward, right, in a hiring process, that they're actually being considered or selected for a full-time role or internship with the organization that they did a micro internship with. Here's some outcomes that we track. I'll give you a moment to kind of look at the graphs here. But again, looking at the different outcomes that students are self-reporting in that post-opportunity survey, being able to talk about what was the impact of this opportunity, what outcome happened, and how did I feel about it? Make sure that I'm not missing any questions in the chat while I'm here. No, cool. I sometimes forget about the chat, even though I encourage everybody to use it. Additional considerations before you're launching a program is, of course, where is the money coming from? What funding sources do we have available or that we want to seek out for consideration? Various opportunities for institutional funding, right? I mentioned career services, alumni affairs or alumni development, advancement, academic affairs, maybe specific college, grant funding through local foundations, experiential learning grants from private or corporate foundations. Maybe they really have different focuses themselves that you can go ahead and partner with them on. And of course, those corporate sponsorships. So maybe there's a corporate partner that you have with your institution or with your department that say, hey, we would love to donate X amount of dollars to support your students specifically. And you say, awesome, you can work with them through micro internships. And this way that you can see how your funding's applied and really create some cool connections. There's often people who say, I've got use or lose money, it's fiscal year ending, and we've got to put this money towards a initiative ASAP, and then we'll hammer out some details. We're here to support you in making sure that those funds are getting utilized and that your budget is getting maximized as well. Maybe there's specific alumni that have interest in experiential learning, right? We love those friends. And again, those corporate sponsors who maybe want to add micro internships to a package, right? You already have a sponsorship package for corporate sponsors in your office. And then you could say, well, and then you add XYZ dollar amount, maybe again, like I said, $400 or $500 will support a campus ambassador for that organization, for that campus partner. And then, of course, on-campus projects that can support various departments. We've got a couple of programs that are built out that campus departments specifically are the employers, right? So it's benefiting the students to get engaged on campus and really get that hands-on learning in the different departments. And then the departments get support that they greatly need as well. So like I said, there's that typical $10,000 program, but there's also ones that are larger. And this is an example of how much money is paid to your students in this. You know by now, hopefully, that Parker Dewey, we're not about trying to be the largest company in the world or whatever. We're here to pretty much give most of the money to the students. So most of the money from a partnership program is going to your students. So again, in a $10,000 program, about $8,000 is going directly to student payments, and then $2,000 of that goes towards the program management and administration of the program. These dollars kind of fluctuate and total students supported based off of how many hours you want the projects to be, as well as the payment amount that you would like students to be. These examples are based on 20-hour micro internships where the student is paid $400 upon project completion. But this gives you a rough idea of how much a program can cost and where that money is going. So let's talk a little bit about program management. This is where I'll probably get a little too excited because this is a lot of my world day to day, really working to support programs and making sure that they're running smoothly. So step one is, of course, customize micro internship portals. Our basic model, of course, supports having a landing page for your employers and your students. But when there's a funded program involved, we often have a specific landing page to talk about that program and its requirements, where you're able to quickly direct folks to that page for all of the proper information, as well as those customized templates that kind of, like I said, we've got the hours and pay that you dictate. Those templates are then able to be customized to what it is that you dictate for the program, whether it's everything can be 10 hours or 20 hours and this much pay to students. We have required questions, right, that we would like students to be answering on each application. Those are all customized pieces that we can do for the landing page. And then we have our tremendous marketing team working to work on marketing collateral for you all to use. So right now, a lot of you probably already use our marketing toolkits, but if there's any additional resources that we might need to customize, we're happy to do that for a program to make sure that all of the details are included. There's that day-to-day program administration. That's where me and my team, we're here to ensure that projects align with your program's criteria or specifications from the funding source, things like that. Making sure that the student is in the proper, class year, right? If it's for sophomores, we're making sure that only sophomores are applying for these projects and getting them, right? And that the projects in the program are staying on track along the way. We're there to also connect with the employers, right? So if an employer needs a little help scoping a project or has any questions about navigating the process or working with their student or anything like that, we're here to support them too. And again, I was just telling folks yesterday in our Parker Dewey Plus office hours, I was like, hey, if you get an employer who has a question, please send them my way. Like, your plate is already this high and full. We're not here to add to it. We're here to support you. So if they have a question, please connect them with me and I'd be happy to follow up with them. What's really fun is we've got our program dashboard. So we've got Parker Dewey Plus where you're able to see all of your institutional data and data for your projects that have been posted, all of the feedback I mentioned earlier, all of this is compiled in your Parker Dewey Plus dashboard. That again, we're continuing to get to see evolve and change as needs continue to grow and people have questions about, can I see this? And it's like, hey, yeah, we can show you how that works. And then again, you can look at that on-demand data about who is engaging in your program, right? How many students are applying for the projects? Which students are logging in, right? Did so-and-so who left my office promising they'd apply for the project tonight, did they apply? I can look at that now, as well as the company signing up. So you can see, oh, wait, I just talked with XYZ company and they said they were going to sign up and post their project, but I'm not seeing them on here. Let me reach out to Annie and see what maybe is going on, if they've heard from them or not. Oftentimes the project is still just sitting and awaiting approval, and we're waiting to make sure that it looks like it fits all of your criteria for a program, and then approve it and get it going onto the dashboard. Fun feature of the Parker Dewey Plus dashboard is, of course, the impact report. This shows summary data over the last 12 months, includes all of the feedback that has been given to students and from students, as well as different outcomes, insights, really looking at what is showing the success of the program. A lot of people just grab this impact report and that's what they're able to use and throw into whatever reporting that they might need for wrapping up a program on their side too. So we really like to provide that and give all the pretty graphs and everything already there for you to take a screen grab of and download and have at your disposal. So how to get started, right? So we talked about all the different elements of a funded program, but how do we really get from here all the way to there, right? So first off, determining your goals. So who do you want to support through this program? What students, what organizations do you want involved? And by the way, all of this is stuff that we're happy to talk through with you. You don't have to just sit here in your office writing everything down on a whiteboard yourself. We're here to talk it out. How do you want to fund the program, right? Are there already funding sources that you've identified or have on your radar or that you want to start looking into? Starting to establish the rules, right? What is the program criteria? Who's eligible to participate? When do we want all of these things to happen? How much do I want the students to get paid? And all of those little details that, again, we're here to talk through with you, but are important to have settled and established before we really launch a program. And then we set everything up. So once we have all of those elements solidified, we can start working on that marketing collateral, the landing pages, websites, the project templates that are customized, and then you're able to get started along the timeline that you dictate and share it with your students, share it with your eligible organizations, have a webinar hosting the employers, telling them all about it. We love to see it. And then, of course, start seeing the results, right? See the benefit of all this hard work and where this funding is going to. Looking at what is the impact that it's having on your students and on the employers, right? A big question that people ask is how long does this take? Not too long, right? So once you have some of those goals determined, the funding source solidified, if we have everything ready on that kind of end of things, you know what you want, we know when we want to do it. Parker Dewey's not here to stand in the way. We can turn a program around in as early as 1 week. I don't want to say less than a week, but in about a week, maybe two, and really help you to get set up. So again, a lot of that comes into play with folks who say, oh man, we have this use it or lose it money, or we've got this grant and they've got specific timelines. Can we make it work? We're like, yes, we can make it work. We're here to support you. And then again, can additional funding be added? Yep, we can add that along the way. Again, as different funding sources get identified, or a lot of times you can start showing your leadership the results of the program and the success along the way. And they say, great, how about more money? You're like, yes. And we're like, yes, we love to see it. So that's where a small pilot can begin and continue to grow throughout the program's development. I have, like I said, roughly 1.5 million more case studies. So I want to take a moment to ask if anybody has any specific questions about programs, and maybe any of my case studies will apply to those without me walking you through all of them. They'll all be emailed. Okay, so Victoria is asking about the breakdown for programs. Um, Many hours of work. I believe it's $20 an hour. Let me do math. Yeah, so it'd be $20 an hour that the student is getting paid. And again, they'll be giving, that's that breakdown for 20-hour projects, getting paid $20 an hour. Now, if there are opportunities that you say, hey, we want students to be paid $25 an hour, cool. Well, that's just going to adjust how many students can be impacted through that program. Experiential courses. Yes, let me get one of those. Do we have? I might go back to the first one. Yes. Okay. So one example is Cal Poly Pomona. They are specifically engaging their students through their coursework. We like to talk about with programs associated with courses that the students can't be required to do a micro internship, right? We want it to be an opportunity. So that their grade's not dependent on whether or not an employer selects them, right? But this is just one example. This is actually an ongoing program that's been going on since for a while, and then they kind of updated it. So 2023 until now has been when they've significantly grown and supporting 1,400 plus students a semester through this. And the faculty are posting the projects and engaging with companies. Any other questions? Again, I kind of mentioned that piece about those in-class micro internships for experiential opportunities. So again, we're able to be here to make sure that the projects are paid fairly, right? Like we don't typically allow projects that are under $15 an hour. We like to make sure that the students are being paid fairly for their work. And that the opportunity is available for all the students to be able to participate. There's enough for everybody to go around, or again, optional opportunities. We can't just say only 2 students can do it. That's not cool. Any other questions? And feel free to let me know if you want me to go back to any of the slides and talk more thoroughly about any of the other programs we've seen. And I can go ahead here, kind of flip through some of these. This is a great way to have engaged faculty through our HubSpot program. Small businesses. NOVA is a pretty interesting program because it's specifically with the Division of Language Arts and Social Sciences. So this is through a 3-year grant that they have. Again, an example of it's for a specific set of students, current students studying in that college, majoring in that division. as well as these specific employers, ideally who are in the area or small businesses. And then, of course, making sure that these are opportunities connected to the student's education interest areas. And again, launched early this year and currently running. Some examples of programs who have engaged nonprofits and governmental agencies. And like I said, this will all be emailed out, so you can see all of these different ones as well. GW Career Quest through the George Washington University really focuses on engaging their alumni and campus partners and friends. This is an example of an ongoing program. And again, I always forget they were initially a use or lose grant, right? And now it's funded through alumni donations. Let's see. Are there startup companies that are listed on Parker Dewey for options, and are there internships geared towards students who are looking to become entrepreneurs? Yes, and I want to say yes. So there's all kinds of organizations who utilize us, including startup organizations. I that's probably we have a reporting feature for students to let us know if they think a project appears sus. And the number one sus kind of report that I get is that a company maybe doesn't have a website or they don't have a logo yet. But the student didn't double check that the project was for a startup who is looking for a student to build them a website, right? So we have a lot of entrepreneurs who utilize our platform to really get started and use your students' really creative ideas to assist them in getting off the ground or, completing those tasks. A lot of time it's a great opportunity for those students to learn from the entrepreneur if they have that interest themselves and really see what it takes to be an entrepreneur and start your own business. And then maybe even getting on the ground floor, continuing to work with that organization. One of the companies from the Trinity program I mentioned, where they have a lot of entrepreneurs and startups, it's their focus. They have continued to employ those students for part-time opportunities throughout the year outside of the program as well, because they were able to not have to spend a million hours recruiting, because entrepreneurs don't have that kind of time. They were able to audition the students, see that it was a great fit, and continue to work with them. And the students are getting to continue to have that experience of building a startup with that entrepreneur. Cool. Definitely can be a great opportunity to engage your corporate partners, right? So a great opportunity to share micro internships with your employers because they align with being able to do skills-based hiring. A lot of employers are looking for your guidance on how to best engage with your students, right? You know your students best, and they're probably saying, well, what do they want? How do they want to be engaged with our company? How can we get them interested in XYZ, area that's not well known? And again, thinking about the ones who still come to campus and maybe want to supplement their interactions with your students, right? I love hearing that a company goes to campus for the career fair and then they get to meet face to face with a student that they did a micro internship with previously. Or again, flip-flopping that around and using the career fair to connect with students for micro internships. And really giving that authentic opportunity for everybody to engage with one another. An example of engaging corporate partners is with UCI, the Entrepreneur Center. So this is a program that has been launched since about August 2022. And the funding source kind of varies. So sometimes the center themselves funds projects, and then a lot of the companies themselves are also funding the projects. So it's kind of a cool one. And again, this is hosted directly by the program themselves at the Entrepreneur Center. It doesn't really have a lot of career services involvement, if any. So right now, you might be at a school that your students are actually eligible for a funded program, and you might not have already known it. So some of these larger programs that are funded for state entities or again through different nonprofit organizations are actually open to a large variety of schools. So we went through a lot of programs that highlight school-funded programs, right, that are for specific students, class years, etc. Whereas we've got these three programs that actually are open to students from a variety of schools. So the Indiana program is open to any student at schools in Indiana. The Kansas program is open to any Kansas students attending their public colleges or universities. And then our DeLuca Foundation program. And this is one that's really fun to explain to employers because they're like, that's an interesting smattering of schools, everything in Florida, Connecticut, HBCUs, and members of the HSI Career Collaborative. This is an example of a program that has evolved over time. Right? So initially the students who were eligible came from Florida and Connecticut schools only, and we were able to demonstrate the impact that it was having and really let them know that, hey, it might be interesting to expand to some other populations that are already kind of benefiting, but at scale. So they agreed to expanding the program to every HBCU in the country, as well as some Hispanic serving institutions, and those are part of the HSI Career Collaborative. Right now, there's no state program for Washington. These are our statewide programs as of now. But if you would like to talk about that, we're happy to talk about it. Again, more case studies, more opportunities, things to share with employers. I want to make sure before I forget to double check and ask everybody for any next steps that you might be having. If you would like to go ahead and respond to the poll that I just launched so that we can follow up with you accordingly. If you would like any specific follow-up about connecting for potential programs with your institution, or say, hey, check in a while, we'll check back later. Your gears are turning and you want to talk to some folks internally, that's great too. We're here to support you at whatever stage you're at, and of course, continue to answer any questions that you have.